Hello, and welcome to Lydia Hawk Designs. I had a question about darning or freeform sewing on the Kenmore Rotary Sewing Machine model 117.59 and similar. And so I want to go over what that looks like, as well as some of the accessories that came with the accessories kit I bought from eBay. This is the darning foot, and you can use it for gathering, puffing, or shirring. I guess technically it's called the foot gatherer, but there is a section in the manual for darning, and there are quite a few steps to this. The only thing I can describe this as is a darning plate. On this machine, you cannot lower the dog feet. And since we want to manipulate the fabric ourselves, we need to make sure that the dog feeds don't engage and move the fabric for us. So by leaving the presser bar lever in the back up and covering our feed dogs with this darning plate, we can move the material around ourselves. If you can't find a plate like this, the only other thing I can suggest is just leave the presser bar lever up and move the material that way. There's a little more space if you don't do it that way anyway. So the first thing we're going to do is remove this very small screw on the right side. And then with my fingers, I'm going to loosen this joint to release the foot I have on the machine right now. Now, before we add the darning foot, let's remove this plate and see what this darning plate looks like. After you have the plate in place, gently move the needle to make sure that it's positioned correctly. And then when you add the darning foot, make sure it's seated all the way to the back. There's a very small hole for it to go in. All the way to the back, tighten the joint, and once you're sure that it's in the right position, you can replace that tiny screw on the right side. I already have a video on winding the bobbin, threading the machine. I will link to that above and in the description because it's very thorough and easy to follow. So redoing it doesn't make a lot of sense, but I do think it is worth going ahead and noting here that the needle must be positioned properly for it to pick up the bobbin thread. Normally, our needles are positioned where the hole faces forward, but on this machine, the needle hole faces from side to side. I always leave this cover open while I'm picking up the bobbin thread so I can see what's happening. It can be a little tricky picking up the bobbin thread on this machine. And because this area between the plate and the foot is so small, I find that using a short piece of thread to pull the bobbin thread through is a lot easier than trying to find something thin enough to fit between them. And then we replace our handhole cover plate. After we have placed our darning foot on the machine, according to the manual, it says set forward stitch regulator at number 1 on dial. So in order to do that, we're going to go over here. This is the stitch regulator. We're going to unscrew the knob, and then we're going to place it all the way down at the 0 mark. And then we'll tighten that screw, and that step is complete. Then release all pressure on presser bar by means of the release lever. Merely press downward on this lever, at the same time moving it out of the notch, and it will automatically spring to the top of the slot. It goes on to say, use a fairly coarse needle for all darning. Move the material back and forth and from side to side while keeping it stretched as tightly as possible. Best results can be obtained by the use of hoops. This is a really thick piece of material, probably not appropriate. It's cotton with batting, and I folded it over, so it's pretty thick. But once the machine gets going and I move the material myself with my hands, the stitches look pretty good. And I'm not practiced at this, so please don't judge the machine's ability to, stitch well in freeform sewing or darning based upon my work here. But it still looks really good to me. The manual says that when we're done, when the darning is completed, press the release lever downward and into the notch. We'll replace the darning foot with the foot of our choice and readjust the stitch regulator to our desired position. I hope this answers any questions about freeform sewing and darning with this machine. I'm going to go ahead and make videos on the other attachments, but this was a very specific question for this machine, so I hope it is helpful. Until next time.